So what's good, everybody? And it's Crazy Jay, and welcome to Crazy Jay's World, baby. Yeah, welcome. I want to welcome everybody to Crazy Jay's World. Cloud ending was a little messed up. Don't know why. That's okay. Just a little glitch in our life, which is okay. That's okay. So I'm going to start off today with the Just for Today, living the program, because it's a good way to start the podcast. And it's a good way to start your day because it's just for today, living the program. So without further ado, just for today, living the program. Tell yourself, just for today, my thoughts will be on my recovery. Living and enjoying life without the use of drugs and alcohol. Just for today, I will have faith in someone in AA who believes in me and wants to help me in my recovery. That's right. Just for today, I will have a program. I will try to follow it to the best of my ability. Just for today, through NAAA, I will try to get a better perspective on my life. Just for today, I will be unafraid. My thoughts will be on my new associations, people who are not using and who have found a new way of life. So as long as I follow that way, I have nothing to fear. And that's right. You don't. If you follow that guideline, you won't really have nothing to fear. It's saying just for today, living the program, how we live the program just for today. So I wanted to talk a little bit real quick about, so supposedly they're shooting Grown Ups 3 in my town, which is really cool. So I put a short up on YouTube, just real quick. I took a little video. I went over by the beach and, took a video of some of the setup things that were setting up, I guess, for the actors. They're putting some tents and stuff over there, It doesn't really look like much anything, yet, but I'm sure in another couple days it will. There'll probably be like trailers and stuff out there. It's really cool that they're doing that. So, if I could get some like pre-stuff, then when you see the movie, like, I'm like, yeah, I seen all that, like all this stuff. I'll know some of the stuff that goes into it before, like it's like being, I guess, in New York City or whatever, California, and you're, I guess if you're used to that, them shooting movies, but you just don't look at it like that. But I'm not used to that. Like it's cool that they're shooting. I mean, I heard, there's Netflix is eventually coming in New Jersey too. They already started building it. So they're gonna have like a big Netflix studio in New Jersey, which is cool. They're gonna be shooting, Netflix movies there and probably other stuff there. It's gonna be a big movie set. It's really cool. By the way, if I haven't said already, please like, comment, subscribe, and share on YouTube. Follow me on TikTok. I'm gonna start saying that now too, because I am going on TikTok and putting little shorts on there as well. I have 48 followers now on TikTok. Like, that is great. 48. I'm happy. I'm proud of that. At 48 followers on TikTok already. I only had, I think before I started this podcasting, I think I had like 31 because I didn't really go on TikTok a lot. But, TikTok's a big social media platform. So I want to promote my, my channel, my podcast on that too. Instagram, I go on too, but I don't really promote on there. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out Instagram. TikTok's just very easy. And I know a lot of people watch TikTok. So TikTok is a good place to, get my stuff out there. So yeah, I just, I wanted to tell everybody about the Grown Ups thing. I thought that's really cool that they're shooting a movie like really on the street behind my house almost. Like it's like right there. I could see the boardwalk through my window. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, I hope everybody's having a great day today. I've been making a lot of episodes. I know I have, and I'm gonna keep doing it because I'm enjoying this. I'm not nervous to do it. I like doing it. And the more I do, that's more content for people to listen to. That's more content of Crazy Jay's World that they get to hear. And then maybe people will really start enjoying it. I know I've been told I'm doing pretty good. I got some things I got to work on. I know that. The talking aspect, I feel like I have down. You just sit here and you watch My Ugly Mug, and if you're on YouTube, you watch it. I mean, obviously Spotify, you just hear it. You just listen to it, but it's pretty cool. It's really cool being on Spotify. I was listening to one of my episodes the other day, and it's just weird hearing me on that platform. Like, I don't know. This is all God's work, my higher power. This is not me. This is the time that I've been thinking about doing this. It's finally happening, and it's awesome that I'm doing it, and I want to keep doing it. I'm having fun, and, when we get sober, we have to learn how to have fun. We don't use alcohol or drugs anymore when we're sober. I mean, unless you're on some other kind of recovery, which does happen. But my recovery is no drugs or alcohol. I don't use anything. I don't drink anymore, nothing. So I try to find fun in other ways. And this is starting to be like really fun for me. I got a bunch of topics, and I'm gonna try to talk about them the best I can, to the best of my ability. That's all I can do. I can only talk about it the best of my ability. I want to start doing interviews. I'd really like to start doing it. I don't have to have you on here if you're not in recovery. You don't have to be in recovery to be on my podcast. You just want to come on here and talk about your life. That's what I want. We come on here, we have a good time, and we just talk, we shoot the shit and we just go by there. Like I want people who are in recovery on here to, come on for interviews because I want to bring people who are actually living the program on because this is a recovery life podcast. But I want to also have people on who want to talk about their life. I want to share it with people out there so people get to hear it. Maybe somebody's got something they want to say or share with people out there. Why not do it here on a podcast where a lot of people hopefully eventually will start listening, So yeah, I just wanted to talk, because I don't just talk about talking. I just, kind of, I guess, go right into my topic and then I do that. But yeah, I'm just letting you guys know that I'm having fun. I'm enjoying this. It's fun. And I'm going to keep popping them out. Whenever I can, I'm going to do one, like that's what's cool about this. There's no, I don't have to put one out on a certain date. It's not like it's a TV show, or like Howard Stern's talk show where he would do it, 3 days and then then the rest of, 2 days, 3 days during the week, and then 2 days he wouldn't do it, and then the weekend he would, just, play his repeat, which he hates podcasters, by the way, because, he is the king of media, so yeah, sorry, Howard Stern. I like Howard Stern, though. I like a lot of what he talked about. I remember him when I was younger, back in the 90s on Z100? Yeah, I think it was Z100. Or no, 92.3 K-Rock, when it was 92.3 K-Rock, he was on there. Yep, I remember. So today I wanted to talk about fear of relapse, the fear of relapsing. So that's a big one. That's a big topic. And, why to fear a relapse? So why would you fear a relapse? So really think about that. If you're in recovery, and you're doing your thing, why would you fear a relapse? I'm going to give you a second to think. All right, so why to fear a relapse? I would fear a relapse because me relapsing would mean I used. And then depending on how much time I had, I might lose that time because I used. I always tell people reach out before you're going to relapse. Before you feel you're going to use, reach out because, a relapse comes way before the relapse even happens. And we don't realize that. It's because it's the way we start thinking. We start thinking about things. Maybe your recovery has some holes in it, and maybe we're not doing the program the best that we can, So yeah, they say, man, a relapse comes way before the relapse, and it does because you already program your brain to already relapse. Like you're already maybe something in your life's not going good, and maybe a family member dies, or you lose your job, or you get in a car accident, you lose your car, or you lose your place of living, and then you just say, screw it, I'm going to use. Like those things can cause a relapse. The fear of relapse is real. It's scary. It can happen at any time. Like I'm always scared of a relapse, because I don't want to relapse. But the fear of it is always there because it can happen at any moment in time. Like you could just relapse. And I've heard that it happens way before, the actual relapse. Like you actually, your brain programs a relapse. Like you're already building up the relapse in your head without even realizing you're doing it. And then you do it. So you have to look for the signs, if you got to look at your program. And if you start if say your program's good and you start noticing that something's slipping or something, that's usually what happens. Your program starts slipping in some way and you start getting doubts, and then your recovery's not like it was, you start noticing maybe your attitude's changing or your meetings have cut back some, or maybe you're not calling your sponsor as much. Like you're cutting your recovery down to an aspect where you're on the verge of a relapse. And that's what happened. You start doing things that are not letting your recovery be what it was. Recovery can change very quickly. Like you could have a really good recovery and then all of a sudden you're not having a good recovery. The recovery changes all the time forever because you're always recovering, so the fear of that happening, it's scary. Like I'm always scared that that can happen. I don't try to like think about it. And my program, I feel like is good where it is because I try to be as honest as I can in my recovery, with anything. I don't steal anymore. I used to steal when I was using. Like I can't believe I even did stuff like that. I used to hurt people when I was using. I used to be a jerk when I was using, and then the fear now of relapse, I don't want to go back to where I was. What happens if you relapse? And people say that. What happens if you relapse is if you relapse, don't keep using. Stop. You relapse. Oh, well, it's over and done with. Go back to the rooms. Work on your program again. You might have to start over because your relapse is going to end your time if you count time, but it doesn't mean you can't start over. And then if you relapse, because relapse is part of recovery, it's a big part of it. A lot of us relapse a couple times before we get sober finally and stay sober. I mean, I did. I didn't get sober. This isn't the first time I've ever got sober. I got sober a couple times. So relapse is part of recovery. But every time you relapse, and if you keep using it, it gets worse. It doesn't get any better. Every time you go back out, it gets worse. It never gets better. And it usually happens faster. So every time, say you're an alcoholic, and you relapse, you got to the bar and you get drunk. Maybe your friend invited you out to the bar and you're in recovery and you just drink. You get a drink. You don't even know what brought it on. You start drinking, you get drunk. And the next day you're like, oh, well, F it. I already relapsed. I already screwed up. I'm just going to start drinking. And then what's going to happen is you're going to start drinking and it's going to get bad faster this time. And it's going to be worse. And your rock bottom is going to be worse this time. It never gets better. It only gets worse. If you actually have a real problem, like you actually really do, you weren't put into rooms because of, a drunk drive and you were drinking one night and you drove and you got stopped and then your part of your thing is you have to go into the rooms or, you got caught with drugs and you have to go to meetings because you got caught with drugs. Like if someone didn't force you to go, doesn't mean you don't have a problem. There's people that they go, they do their thing for court, they end it and then they go back out and they wind up back again because they have a problem. They just don't want to admit it. And until you admit you have that problem, you're never going to get sober. You're not going to realize you actually have a problem. Like what if your relapse turns into years of active addiction? Yeah, I mean, it can. You can go relapse and then you're back to using every day. You're back to drinking every day. Like you could go back. I mean, I've heard stories in the rooms where people have relapsed and 5 years went by. There was actually a guy who sponsored me first. His name was Mike. He gave me my 24-hour-a-day book I still have it. And he had 5 years sober. And all of a sudden, for some reason, he went back out. He was so big into the recovery thing, man. He was like Mr. AA. I called him. I called him Mr. AA because he was so knowledgeable about, AA and the recovery stuff. And I didn't think he would go back out. And all of a sudden, I found out one day, he didn't come to a meeting one night. He was supposed to meet me at the meeting, actually, and he wound up not showing up. And I asked everybody, I was like, he's my sponsor. I told everybody, I was like, is he all right? Like, is anybody here from him? They're like, no, we're not. Next thing you know, like a week later, I found he was drinking again because he thought he could drink again. And what's crazy is he knew he was an alcoholic. He even told me, I'm an alcoholic. I know I am. I should not be drinking. And he started drinking. I don't even know what actually happened to him because he wound up not coming back. He was coming back, actually. I'm sorry. He was coming back, but he was still drinking. So he would come to a meeting. He wasn't my sponsor because he told me he couldn't sponsor him because he relapsed, so he didn't want to be my sponsor. That was the one sponsor I had before I got the guy Ken I got. But yeah, he was still going. He would go to a meeting and then he would go out and drink after. Like after he relapsed and started drinking again, he would come to a meeting sober. He was always coming to a meeting sober, but then after the meeting for something, he would go out and he would go to the bar and he would go drink. And then one day we didn't see him anymore. I don't know what happened to him. To this day, I don't know. I'd never seen him again. I don't live upstate New York anymore, so I don't know, And that's what's crazy about addiction. Like he knew he had a problem. And then for some reason he just relapsed and he wanted to start running around again and drinking again. And I don't know why. I even asked him, I said, Mike, why are you drinking again? Like, what's the deal? And he told me he don't know. He said, I feel like I can. And I said, well, be responsible. Like I didn't know exactly what to say to him. A relapse does not have to keep us from recovery. It doesn't. Think about that. All right, say you go out and you relapse, or you go out and you relapse. It happens. It happens a lot. It doesn't mean you can't come back and get sober again. You can relapse 100 times and keep coming back. You're just going to have to deal with what happens to you when you do relapse. And then when you walk back in rooms, because a lot of people feel ashamed when they come back. There's a lot of people that, they relapse and then they come back to rooms and they just feel ashamed because they feel like they let everybody down in the program. Like you feel like you let people down. Don't worry about the people in the rooms about letting them down. You gotta worry about yourself. You're letting yourself down. Once you admit that you're powerless over alcohol and drugs, you're admitting that you don't have the power over that. It has the power over you. I am powerless over drugs and alcohol. So that's saying you are powerless. It's your puppet master and you're the puppet. You can't control yourself. You don't know how to use drugs right, which a lot of people don't. You don't know how to use alcohol right. You're not responsible. That's how I was. I was not responsible when I drank. And when I did drugs, and especially opiates, and I couldn't get them, I did dumb things to find ways to get it. I would steal to get money so I could buy it. Like I did stupid things to just get opiates. But yes, a relapse is part of recovery. It is, and it doesn't have to keep you from recovery. If you relapse, you relapse. It happens. Go back to the room and start over and figure out why you relapsed. Try to figure out what was going on in your program at that time that you decided to go back out, and then you work on that. You don't go back out, you come back and you stay sober and you work on that. You have to work this program. It's working for the rest of your life. It's like a job that never is going to end. You're going to be working this forever until you're not here no more, because that's what it takes to stay sober. It takes a lot of energy, like it did when we were using. It takes a lot of energy to stay sober. How is your program recovery? Like, you have to look at that. So, if you start feeling like a relapse coming on, say something. Tell your sponsor, listen, I feel like I want to go use. That's a burning desire. That's what a burning desire is. When they in the meetings and they'll go, anybody have a burning desire tonight? And a lot of people don't raise their hand. Somebody might actually have one and they don't raise their hand and then they go back out because they want to use for some reason. Because if you talk about why you want to use, someone can help you. Someone could sit down and be like, all right, let's figure out what's going on. That's what I'm saying. Always talk about it. Always figure out what's going on before you act. Because if you don't act, then you didn't relapse yet and you still have your recovery. Like if I relapsed, I would beat myself up because I have a lot of time already and I don't want to lose that. But that's not why I don't relapse. I don't relapse because I just don't want to lose my time and say, oh, I'm not sober anymore. I don't relapse because I'm in a good place. I'm just lonely. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't really have too many friends. I have my kids. I go to work and then I sit home. So I isolate, I guess. But I'm in a good place. Like mentally, I'm in a good place. I'm not depressed, stuff like that. Like I try to keep recovery in my brain. I try to keep away from relapse. If I'm feeling some type of way, I talk about it. And then coming on here now and actually talking on this podcast about recovery has actually really been helping my recovery a lot. I realized that the other day. I'm not talking to somebody. I'm recording it, and then I'm putting it out there for people to see it. So I'm giving recovery away, and it's helping my recovery a lot. Like, I'm in a way better place than I was a month ago in my recovery just because I'm doing this. You know what I mean? Like, a relapse does not define us as a recovery. It doesn't. Remember that. It doesn't define who you are because you relapse. If you relapse, and you just come back. You know what I mean? You can come back. What family members will think about you if you relapse? Like, you ever think about that too? Like, say you're starting to get a relationship back with your kids if you have them, and then you go back out and you start using again. You're going to lose that relationship with your kids. You're going to lose that relationship with your husband or wife or your parents, or your brothers or your sisters or your aunts, or like it's hard because you have to get trust again, like especially if you're a really bad like addict or alcoholic and you start burning bridges with your family and they really like don't want nothing to do with you, and then you get sober and you start bending those bridges, you start mending them. I said bending, sorry, mending, and you start fixing them and things start getting good, and then you go back out again. Your family's gonna have a hard time trusting you again. They're gonna be like, wow, he's back out. He went back out. Like, he hasn't changed or she hasn't changed. Like, there's no change. They were only sober and then they went back out. You have to really look at, like, if you're thinking about, like, if relapse is in your brain, you have to really like start looking at why. Start writing stuff down. Write down why you're feeling this way. Like, why am I thinking about relapsing? What is going on in my program? What's going on in my recovery that I'm thinking about going out and getting drunk tonight? Or I'm thinking about going out and smoking crack, or I'm going to get a bag of dope or a pill. What is going on with me making me want to go do this again? Making me want to go live that life because you think it's fun. If it wasn't fun and you stopped it and you got sober, you think it's going to be fun again going back out. It might be fun in the beginning. You know what I mean? If you're an alcoholic, you might go out to the bar and have a good time the first night you go back out. Be like, oh yeah, this is what I was missing. Like this is fun because recovery is boring. Recovery's not boring. Recovery's only boring if you make it boring. Remember that. That's why people say recovery is boring. You know, it's people who say that. There's a lot of people that don't find recovery boring. I don't find it boring. Recovery's only boring if you make it boring. You have to look at the good things in life and the good things in your recovery to enjoy recovery. You know, if you're going to sit there and dwell on crap and make your recovery crappy, you're going to be bored and then you're going to want to go out and you're going to make yourself relapse because you want to relapse. And if you're having a good recovery and then your recovery starts getting boring, it's because you're making it boring on purpose because you're mentally going to relapse. You know, like, yeah, like what brought on the relapse? Like, what brings on a relapse? A lot of things can, man. You could lose your job. You could not get the promotion at work. You know, that could bring on a relapse. Like I said, there's a lot of things that could bring on a relapse. It all matters on where you are in your recovery. That's what really matters. You know, a lot of people will be like, oh, if this one died or if this happened or this happened, I'm probably going to go drink or use. You know what that is? That's you already planning your relapse. You already planned it by saying that. And I hear it, you hear that a lot in the rooms, man. Like, oh, I don't know if I could stay sober if this happened or if this happened. It's because you want to use. Then honestly, you're still wanting to use because you're already giving yourself the permission to use. That's what that's saying. Like what I'm saying right now is if something happened, I'm not going to use. I'm going to deal with it sober. It's going to hurt. If it's something bad, it's going to hurt and I'm going to have to deal with it. But using ain't going to make it any better. Relapsing's not going to make it better. Especially if it's something horrific. Using or drinking is going to make it worse. It's going to make it a lot worse. And then I'm going to get worse. I'm not going to heal right. Whoever needs me to be there for them, I'm not going to be able to be because I'm going to be too busy, self-pitying myself. How am I going to comfort the people who need to be comforted if I'm out running around again? I'm not going to be able to comfort anybody. I got to learn how to stay strong and going back out because of something happening. I can't be strong. I can't be a dad or a friend. I can't be that if I relapse today. I can't be who I am. I can't be the strong person that I am. And we don't think about that. If you're thinking about relapsing, you're being selfish because it's all about you again. It's not about me. My recovery is about me, but what I do with it is about other people. Like me seeing my kids growing up is phenomenal. And I'm sober doing it. And I'll be honest, when I first came back, I remember when I first, I got sober and the first actual things I started thinking about, I think I was like maybe 2 or 3 months sober, is when I see my kids, how am I going to act with them? Am I going to be able to be like a dad? That was a fear of mine because I didn't see my kids for so long. And a lot of times when I was around my kids before, I was high around them or drunk around my kids. Like I was thinking, like, am I going to be able to be a dad, a sober dad to these kids? I wasn't really in their life. That I was in their lives, but I wasn't. I was more probably not in their lives than I was, and I hate that. And like I said, I can't make up for lost time. I can only be here now. I remember the first time when I came back here. I forget how many years I had, like 2 or 3 years. And I came back with my friend because COVID happened and he came up to visit me and I wasn't working anymore because my job closed because of COVID. And I was like, I want to see my kids. So I decided to come back to Jersey for a week, so I could see them. And the first time I seen them when I was sober, it was weird, but I didn't act like I thought I was gonna. I was scared. Like I was like, how am I going to act around my kids sober now? Like I talked to them on the phone when I was sober, but I was talking to them on the phone. I didn't video with them or not. I just talked to them on the phone and I could do that. But being sober around it was different, and that's when I realized I really wanted to be sober. I wanted to be sober, but when I finally came back to Jersey and actually got to see them like physically, I knew I wanted to be sober. I knew I didn't want to relapse. I didn't want relapse to be part of me. I still don't want it to be part of me. Relapse is, like I said, it's a big part of recovery, unfortunately. A lot of us get sober and then we go back out and we use. And then we come back, we get sober, and we go back out and use. We come back and we get sober and same thing until we finally get it. Some of us have to relapse a bunch of times before we finally get it. I know I did. I think I relapsed. I don't know how many times I've relapsed. I couldn't tell you. A relapse does not define us and can be scary because it takes us from our higher power. The members of the program, our families. Relapse is part of recovery, and you can come back from a relapse. If you relapse, look at why it happened and get back into the program. Share that you relapse and ask for help again. Because there's people that will relapse and they'll go to me and they won't tell anybody. They won't say they relapsed because they're ashamed of how other people are going to think about them. Don't worry about what other people think about you. If you relapse, you need to share that. Especially if you want to get back on the track of being sober, you have to share that. You can't be scared. Yeah. Relapse is scary. It's always in the back of my mind, like, because it's a fear. That's why it is. I titled this fear of relapse. It's always a fear of mine. That's my biggest fear is relapsing because I feel like I've come so far to just throw away what I've done in the last 9+ years. I don't want to do that. I want to keep being me. I want to keep being sober Chris or sober crazy Jay, baby. Let's give a clap on that because I'm sober crazy Jay. Yeah. But I'm Chris too. My real name is Chris. But I like the Crazy J thing, and it's the title of my channel, my podcast, how to get back to the program. Yeah, I mean, some people come crawling back and some people just come back. But you can always, always come back to the program. You don't have to be scared to. They're not going to hate on you because you went out and you used again. That's what you're meant to do. You're an alcoholic addict. They say any day that an alcoholic addict is sober is a miracle. Any day. Because we're supposed to die from this. And yes, August is Addiction Awareness Month. It's a beautiful month because it's an awareness of an epidemic that kills a lot of people. And you don't have to be one of those people today. Like I'm not saying I know everything and I know everything I'm talking about. I'm just trying to talk about, things that I do somewhat know. I know some stuff about recovery. I do. Not like everything. I'm not like this Mr. I know every little thing about recovery, but I think I do know a lot. And I know relapse. I've seen people relapse. I've seen it happen. I've lost a lot of people in my lives due to relapse. I actually have another son with this girl. And this is after my kids. This is after my ex-wife. And I went to high school with her and we started hooking up years ago. And we had a son together. I don't have him. He's with a family and he's being taken care of and he's with a good family and that's okay. I got to meet him a couple times. It was just too late. Which sucks. It was too late. His name's Boston. But I don't know if I even shared this on my podcast. I might have. But, a couple years ago, yeah, she got sober finally because she had a problem. And she got sober and then she, hung out with one of her older boyfriends and they wound up going to a hotel. I wasn't with her, so it's fine. Like we went together, that's fine. But, and she wound up ODing in the hotel and dying. She actually got sober to be, a mom to Boston. Even though the family had him, they were going to adopt him, but she was going to be able to be around. They weren't going to cut her out. Me, they didn't know me. I only met him a couple times. I wanted to be in his life, but it just wasn't going to work out. But her, she was in his life, so they weren't going to cut her out, but she passed away. I'm pretty sure I shared this. Her name was Jill. And I found that out when I was in Vegas and it was hard. And that was just another person that I lost in this disease. And that's the fear of relapse because I'm afraid that if I relapse, that's going to be me. I don't want to be another statistic. And I want to help people realize that recovery is possible. That's why I ask you guys to share my content. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. My channel's not going to grow in anything if people aren't sharing it. It's not going to get around YouTube. It's not going to get around where it needs to go for the right person to see it. This episode right here could change somebody who's actually in the verge of relapse and they might come across my video and be like, oh, so that's, and I might help somebody. My views are down on YouTube, but that's okay. I'm not mad because I'm going to keep doing this. Like I said, I'm having fun doing this. I'm enjoying this. I'm actually having fun right now. Like this is actually fun to me. Maybe people out there don't get it. You might not, but I'm having fun and I'm going to keep doing it because this is actually fun. And I'm enjoying it. And I wish I would have started this 7 years ago, but it wasn't the right time. When they say there's a time for everything, well, it wasn't the right time. The right time is now. Just like I wish I would have got sober earlier than I did, but that wasn't the right time. The right time was when I got sober. And I'm in a good place in my higher power. I'm in a good place in my life. I'm in a good place as being a father. My kids do some things that still irritate me, but that's okay because they're my kids and they're going to do things that are going to irritate me. And I'm sure I irritate them. I know I bump heads with my daughter a lot, unfortunately, but that's okay. I love my daughter regardless, Yeah, man. A relapse does not have to define us as recoveries. Like And you can always bounce back from a relapse. You always can. You just got to go back to the program. You got to get back into the rooms. You got to start, talking to your higher power again. Let your higher power, because like I said, a relapse there's obviously a defect somewhere going on in your recovery. There's a hole, and sometimes we don't catch it in time. And, there's going to be people out there that they're going to relapse. It's going to happen, unfortunately, it's going to. Yeah, I wrote, I tried, I'm having a problem with my printer for some reason, but I typed up, this little format. It's like, why the fear of relapse? I wrote these myself. There were just things I thought about that I could talk about, like, why the fear of relapse? What happens if you relapse? What family members will think about you. Like, I'm trying to make formats for my podcast now because I feel like it helped me. If I have it in front of me, I could kind of look at it. I'm still working on how to, like, actually talk because I feel like I'm all over the place sometimes. And I'm ADHD. Sorry. But now my printer's acting up. It's not printing. I don't know what's going on. It was printing fine, and now it's not. Like, I'm just having so many problems. But that's okay, because they're minor problems. They're not problems for me to go relapse. See what I'm saying? I'm not going to go relapse because my printer ain't printing. Somebody might, though. Somebody might get really angry that their printer's not printing, and I'm serious about this. And they might go, I need a beer. I need to go get high. Like, that's little things like that can set somebody off to actual relapse. And I'm saying it like being serious. I'm not joking with that. The littlest thing could set somebody off. It happens all the time, recovery. My printer's not working. My shoelace broke. Oh, it's going to rain outside. Like, this is actual things that happen and people relapse over. Yes. Like a big relapse, I feel like bigger relapses are like if you can't afford to pay your bills or you lose your job, or like I said, like your car, you get an accident, your car gets repoed, you lose your house. Yeah. You get behind your bills, you get in debt. That's a big one. Debt can make someone in recovery relapse. Absolutely. Because they're in debt and they're scared. They don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. Relapse is very scary and it can happen at any moment. And that's what's so scary about relapsing. It can happen at any moment. And when you relapse, like, you don't realize you've been building it up, but you do. You actually build up relapse. Like I said, the relapse happens before the relapse. A relapse can happen 3 months before you actually physically relapse. 3 months could build up to you actually finally just going out and relapsing. Like they say, if you're going to barber shop enough, you're going to get a haircut. It's the truth, you know? So you have to look at what's going on in your life and try to figure out, like, if you feel there's like something missing, man, talk about it in a meeting, talk about your sponsor, write it down. To keep your program, or make gratitude lists as much as you need to. Write things down what you're grateful for. Try to stay positive. If you have a sponsor, reach out. Like, if you're having a bad day, call your sponsor. That's what he's there for. She's there for. If you can't get hold of your sponsor, try to call somebody in the rooms, make friends. Like, I should take some of my advice. I don't have a sponsor right at the moment, but that's okay. Like I said, I'm in a good place. I'm happy where I am. And I love being sober. I love being sober. And I'm going to keep, being sober. I just want to make this podcast, accessible to people who are struggling out there. If you're struggling, reach out. I'd love to have, I want to have more people on here. I had, my friend Makad. That was great. That was a cool interview. I mean, I enjoyed doing that. And I definitely want to do more, and I'm looking forward to the interviews so then I can ask questions and be Mr. Questiony, because I like to ask a lot of questions. And that's why I want you guys to write comments. I want you guys to ask me questions, things you want to know, and it might help me come up with some topic ideas for my show. So yeah, man, fear of relapse is real. It is. It's scary and it can happen at any time. Unfortunately, yes, a relapse can happen at any time. And that's what sucks. And like I said, it's always in the back of my mind. It's always there. But like I said, you don't have to pick up today. You can stay sober today. You just have to want to be sober. Reach out. Talk to your higher power. Talk to God. Write down what you have to. Do whatever you have to stay sober today, because you can. If anybody out there who has a recovery podcast, if you happen to come across my podcast, please comment. Let me know, because I would love to be a guest on somebody's podcast. I'd love to come on and talk about my life and my recovery, and I'd love to have you on mine. It goes both ways. I don't know out there who sees this. I don't know how far it gets on YouTube. Sorry if I'm freezing up. It's this platform is just freezing up a lot. I don't know what's going on, like why. It's just lately. I'm freezing up a lot. I'm just letting you know if you're watching out there and I freeze up and I'm sorry. I don't know why it's doing that. It works, and then all of a sudden I just start glitching out. But yeah, like right now it's doing it. But yeah, man, if you have a burning desire to reach out, talk about what's going on. Yeah, I would love to be on a recovery podcast, a different one, not just mine. Like I'd love to be on somebody's, there's some good ones out there that, the cameras are good, the backgrounds are good. Like I said, I was saying, I made a short for on TikTok and I was like, there's AAA movie titles, you know what I mean? And then there's medium movie titles and then there's low budget movie titles. So I'm not a AAA podcast. I'm going to do this podcast. I'm not a medium podcast. I'm a low budget movie podcast. That's where I'm at right now. And that's okay because I get to do this. I get to have fun. I get to go on my computer or my phone and talk about recovery and freeze up on my computer. But I get to talk about recovery and hopefully people listen. And it's amazing that I get to do that and I'm having fun. Yeah, I get to have fun. And this is fun. I find this so fun. I just wish my stuff would stop freezing up because it's freezing up a lot. I don't know why it's doing this. Yeah. Oh, if it cuts out, I'm sorry. It's done this to me because it's freezing up a lot. There it goes. Now it's working. So if this episode winds up ending too short, I'm sorry. I'm gonna end it in a couple minutes. It's because it's just freezing up and it just cut my feed. It's done this to me, and then my episode just ended. I didn't actually get to even end it. So if that happens in any future ones, I don't know. I don't know why it's glitching like this. Like when I first started using this platform, I think over a month ago, I've been doing this probably a little over a month now. It was working great, and then all of a sudden, it's just been freezing up a lot. Like I'm doing it, and it just starts freezing up like really bad. I don't know why. I brought my little modem thing that I have in my room to see if maybe the Wi-Fi would be better, and it's still it's working better, but it still just acts up. I don't know why, but just remember you matter out there, and please help support my channel. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. My content for what it is. I might just have to start shooting them on my phone more, but that's okay because I can edit it on the computer. It's fine. If I have to shoot on my phone, I shoot on my phone for now. It might just be their platform. Maybe they're just having some glitchy problems with it. Because like right now, it's working fine. If it just works like this, it's fine. I can move. I don't know why it does that. It's like it gets behind and it freezes up and tries to catch up. And I think I've had like 2 episodes already crash out on me. Like it just stopped. The one, my computer restarted. So it happens. But at least if I shoot on my phone, I do like an hour one on my phone, it only goes down like 50%. So I can do, an hour is a good time for a podcast. I don't feel like I need to do more than an hour. Now I try to keep them an hour or under. I feel like that's enough for me to get out my voice, for everybody to hear what I got to say. Today's as good as you make it. Remember that. So yeah, that's about, all I'm going to do today because it's freezing up again and I'm afraid it's going to crash on me. I paid a lot of money for this software to use, and it's freezing up, and it's really it's bothering me because I feel like I can't do what I want to do sometimes because it's just freezing up. Like I could see myself freezing up on my computer. But I'm grateful for what I have today. And I hope you are too. I hope everybody is grateful for what they have. You have to be grateful for what you have. And be scared. Have the fear of relapse because it's scary. It's a fear. It's a fear of mine. I don't want to relapse today. I don't want to. I want to stay on the straight and narrow. So please, like I said, like, comment, subscribe, and share. But check me out on Spotify. Yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying the content. If it's freezing up when you're watching, I apologize. It's this Riverside. It's only on my computer. When I shoot on my phone, it's fine. I don't think it's my computer. I just bought this computer like 2 months ago. Like this computer is still brand new, and it wasn't doing this in the beginning. Like it was working. The first couple I put out were working fine, and then I just noticed like 2 weeks ago it just started glitching. It's just glitching out a lot, and it's bothering me because I bought this computer to do the podcast. That was the reason I even got the computer. How am I going to do the podcast on my computer if it's always glitching out? I don't know. But yeah, just reach out if you need to. Remember, you matter. If you have a burning desire today, don't pick up. Reach out before you pick up that first, drug or drink today. Remember that. Your recovery matters. You matter. Always have that fear of relapse, because maybe if you're scared of relapsing, you won't relapse. You know what I mean? Remember that. You don't have to relapse today. Today could be another day sober. Every day sober is a beautiful day. It really is. I love everybody, and I'm gonna get better at this podcasting thing. I will. I will definitely get better at it. It's gonna take me time. I just started doing it. So, if my episodes aren't that great, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm gonna work on me, learning how to talk maybe a little better, maybe how to do my episodes better. I gotta find somebody who knows how to like edit and stuff. Someone who knows, some stuff about this. I gotta try to find somebody who can help me with this stuff. But I feel like I'm doing pretty good. I just need to get my voice out there, and this is a way to do it. It's a way to get my voice out there. That's right. So, yeah, I'm going to end this now. I'm going to end with the serenity prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. And I just hope, you enjoyed the episode for what it was. And like I said, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you're feeling some type of way today, reach out. Reach out to who you have to. I'm sure there's something you can do besides using. Using doesn't have to be the answer. Stay sober. Enjoy your recovery. Enjoy your life. Enjoy what you have. Recovery is beautiful. It really is. So that's it for me. I hope everybody has a great night. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Sorry about the freezing up. It's the platform I'm using. It just does that. I don't know why. But thank you for everybody. Let's give a clap. That's right. We're giving a clap for recovery. Clapping for recovery, baby. We're clapping for you. So this is Crazy Jay, and peace, and be good to each other. Peace out. Bye.